What in the world does it mean to be emotionally attractive?
Okay, we've talked about physical attraction, and that's kind of easy to understand. Then we talked about intellectual attraction, which most people should grasp, but they don't necessarily. But typically when we talk about it, the lights start going off. Oh, I can see intellectual attraction. We want to be able to communicate, understand each other on levels that matter to us. Emotional attraction basically says this. If you're going to be emotionally attractive, it means that you do things, say things, etc., that evoke positive emotions in the other person. Because whenever you do that, whenever you do things, just the fact that you smile, for example, can make you more emotionally attractive in many situations. But whatever you're doing, like paying real attention. I've met a few people in my lifetime that really were gifted at this. And they were very famous people that the 35 seconds I had to talk to them, because they were surrounded by people, they led you to feel that you were the only person on the planet, the only person that mattered. And they did it because they looked in your eyes and they listened carefully and they smiled, and their emotions were right in tune with what you were saying. So you think, wow, this person really cares about me. So it's whatever you do, say, etc., that evokes positive emotions in the other person. Now, when you do that, you become more attractive. That's what actors do on the stage, singers do on the stage. They may not quite always be so good at it in real life, but that's what they do up there that makes people so attractive. Think about it, and I'm not going to get off into entertainment, but there's a tremendous number of outstanding singers in America. Why not all of them celebrities? Well, it's not just the fact that you can sing really well, it's how are you going to evoke emotions within your audience? Now think about that in terms of a relationship. It's like, well, what am I doing that's evoking positive emotions? What am I doing that's evoking negative emotions? We'll come to that in just a couple of minutes, but like these pies have positives, in other words, they draw people to you, the pies also have negatives, which means that if you do these things in the wrong way, they actually push people away from you. Well, we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. For right now, understand emotional attraction. Think about the people that you want to be around with, the people you want to be there. It's the people that make is the wrong word. What they do evokes within you emotions that you really like to feel. So if they do things that lead you to feel handsome or pretty, they're more attractive. If they lead you to feel safe, you feel more attracted to them, actually more attractive yourself. If they lead you to laugh, you find them more attractive if you enjoy laughing. So evoking positive emotions within the other person, that's what emotional attraction is all about.
It's probably easier to grasp at first, at least, when you start thinking about when people do things that make you feel bad about yourself. So I had a friend, and a couple of years ago, she was in the dating circuit, and she had been dating this one guy in the summer and they had been dating for about 6 months by the time summer came around. So they started going to the pool, and once they started going to the pool together, her boyfriend said to her, you know, you would look a whole lot better in that swimsuit if you lost about 10 pounds. Not evoking emotions in her that she enjoyed feeling. I mean, in the very basic place. But if you think about, you hear that story and you think, oh my gosh, why would someone say something like that? But then think about your life and how many times you say things. If you're married, you perhaps say things to your spouse because you've been together 10, 20, 30 years and you're just so comfortable with each other that you say things like, you know, you really should wear something different today. That doesn't look great. Or that meal that you cooked just wasn't the best. You should do it differently next time. Or I can't believe you spent that much at the grocery store. That was me this morning with my husband when he bought 16 pounds of grapefruit. But we get so comfortable in that relationship that our filter kind of comes off, and we can come across as being disrespectful, as making the other person feel bad because we want them to do it our way. We want them to do it different, and therefore they start feeling like they have to meet this list of criteria to be loved.
And this one is so crucial. So for example, in the surveys that I've done, when I ask people of these 4 things, which is the one that's most important to you in your relationship, emotional wins by a mile. Now, if people have as the most important that the physical, then typically they're not looking for a longer term relationship. For example, if you go look at people who are in bars trying to pick up people to take home, by far the only thing that matters to them is physical attraction. what do you look like? But people that are actually wanting relationships, even though the physical is important, it does not become unimportant, it's important. By far the most important to them is the emotional. What you do that evokes a positive emotion within me. So let's go back to our PIES. We're not even into the spiritual yet. So let's say that you were just a 5 on the P, the physical. Because people tend to rate themselves lower than they really are. Unless they're egotists, then they rate themselves higher than they really are. But let's say that you rate yourself a 5. You're probably higher than that, but let's just say that you rate yourself. And here's your competition, if you will, who is a 9 by your estimation. So she's, wow, almost twice as attractive, or he's almost twice as attractive as I am. But intellectually, nothing much in common with the person that you're wanting to attract. So let's just say that's where they're the 5 and you're the 9. Well, now you're becoming equally attractive. Well, let's get to the emotional, which is really crucial to long-term relationships. And let's say you're the 8 and he's the 3. Now you're actually, because the other two things are balancing each other out, if you're scoring all the way across the board there, you become more attractive. And you've seen this. You have seen people together in relationships that physically don't look like they go together. You look at them and think, they just don't look like they go together. I mean, she's stunningly gorgeous, he's just average. Or he's unbelievably handsome, she's just average. How did they get together? Because we instinctively think that people are going to wind up with people who are close to them physically. Because it happens a lot. Well, then how did that happen? Well, the other parts of the PIES kicked in. That person's evoking such amazing emotions within that person. I like being with you. And the physical, important, yeah, but not nearly as important as how I feel when I'm around you. So ask yourself this question in any relationship. It's kind of hard to stop and do it every time, but if we could, before I do this, I wonder how she might react emotionally to what I'm about to do. Or before I say this, I wonder how he or she might react emotionally to what I'm about to say. I admit, I don't do it, but if I could, if I did, if anybody did. And typically, I think those people that are very famous people, that when you do meet them, they make you feel like they lead you to feel like the most important person on the planet. I'll guarantee you they've trained themselves to think, whatever I do, whatever I say, how is it going to affect this other person? And that's how they operate. Now, if you do that in a relationship, you become amazingly more attractive. You won't do it perfectly, nobody does. But that's what makes people attractive, and it avoids that opposite of being disrespectful, of doing the things that evoke emotions they don't enjoy feeling.
Absolutely. I know every time I've asked myself that question, how is this going to affect, and let's just say, well, I'll start this way. Every time I've asked myself that question and I've thought, you know what, it's going to be good, and I've done it, great things have happened. But when I'm angry and I say, you know, I really want to say this, how might this affect them? And then I think to myself, I override that thought in my mind where I know deep inside I shouldn't say this, but I think I have a right to, he needs to know how I feel, he needs to know how to change, and I say it anyway. Nothing good has ever come from that. Not once, not ever.
Pushes the other person away.
Absolutely.
Or even a little change to that where it's like, oh, I think he's going to react badly, but that's what I want to have happen.
Oh, gosh.
I want him to react badly to this because of the fact that he just needs to hurt like I hurt, or she needs to hurt like I hurt. Now, you can do that if you wish. It's your choice. I mean, it's your life. You can do whatever you want to do. But that pushes people away from you. It certainly doesn't attract people to you. Now, let's just kind of summarize that already. In all of these, can you see the positives, the neutrals, and the negatives? For example, two people that get married may have been very physically strongly attracted to each other at the outset. That over time kind of devolves to neutral. As a matter of fact, most of the people with whom you'll interact in the world, you'll see as physically neutral. Most people. But then it can devolve into physically negative. Like, wow, he or she used to take care of his or her body, but they don't anymore. They used to dress, at least acceptably, but they don't anymore. They used to take baths. We really hear this one, but they don't anymore. And so there actually can be a negative where that I'm actually repulsed from you because you don't take care of yourself. Well, the same thing can happen intellectually. We used to have all these great things to talk about and we interacted with each other and there was a great strong intellectual attraction, but one of us kept growing and learning and the other one didn't. And so that kind of devolves to neutral. We don't have much to talk about anymore. And then it gets down into negative territory because it's something really important to me. And when I try to talk to you about it, you're like, leave me alone about that. I don't care about that at all. And intellectually, you become unattractive. And then emotionally, and we see this whenever any marriage gets in trouble, you've always seen this when a marriage is in trouble. You were at one point, when you fell in love and got married, you were evoking positive emotions within each other. The things I did evoked positive emotions out of her. The things she did evoked positive emotions out of me. That over a while can devolve to neutral. It's what Kimberly was talking about when she said people have been living together for a while, begin to just take things for granted. It can devolve into neutral where you're not really evoking any emotions within the other person at all. But then if you start doing those things that do evoke negative emotions in the other person, like being disrespectful, demonstrating anger, saying tacky, crazy things to the other person, all those kinds of things, if you get on the negatives, you're actually pushing the other person away from you. So what do? Well, if you want to be attractive, stop the negatives and move back toward the positives. Now, there are people right now watching this thinking, I wish I could, but he or she's gone. They're not even around anymore. I wish I could. Well, it's not too late to start doing the positives. Mm-hmm. Now, there's actually a way that potentially can bring that person back to you, but that's not what we're talking about in this program. You go to our website, marriagehelper.com, or you go to the other ones of these Marriage Helper Lives we've done. We talk about those things there. It's just not here. Or you call us and talk to one of our client reps or line up sessions with one of our coaches. And we can actually show you how to use the PIES even when you seem to have no interaction with the other person at all, and how it may still possibly bring the other person back. But the key is this. No matter what, if you're single, married and seeming to do well, married and in trouble, move to the positives now. No matter what, physically, start taking care of yourself because it's the most important thing you can do for you, but it also is good for the relationship. Intellectually, start learning and growing. Don't let your mind vegetate. Emotionally, with anybody and everybody you're around, train yourself to do those things, say those things that evoke positive emotions with other people. It's the best thing you can do for you. And it certainly can help your relationship. If you're single, it makes you a lot more attractive. It really does. If you're married, it makes your marriage better. You say, well, it's okay now. It'll make it better. If you're married and in trouble, it's the thing you're going to have to do if you have any chance of putting this marriage back together. Now, we still got to talk about the spiritual, but am I making sense with what I'm talking about, the positives, neutrals, and negatives?
I think it makes perfect sense.
So why don't you say it again succinctly, because I took too long to say it.
So basically what we're saying is there are these scales where we can do things in the physical area, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, that people are attracted to, that it does, if you think of attraction like a magnet, then it is going to magnetize people closer to you. They want to be around you because of it. Mm-hmm. But if you start doing things, if you stop really doing the things that continue to make you attractive and bring that person closer to you, then the pull of that magnet isn't going to be as strong over time, to where eventually it actually could. I remember when I was in grade school, and one of my favorite things to do was pull those magnets around to where the opposing ends were towards each other, because you can never make them touch. They just keep pushing each other away. And that's ultimately what we're talking about. You can start to repel the other person to where no matter what you try to do, they are just so repelled at this point that it seems like nothing you can do will bring them back. And so what you want to do is turn your magnet around. You want to get it to where you start attracting that person, magnetizing them back towards you, but you don't just do it for that reason. You do it first of all because it's the best thing you can do for you. if people are out of sync in their PIES, if it's, if you were to look at someone's body scan, if they're going through a lot of stress or whatever, and they get their blood taken, you might see that their electrolytes and their hormones and all of these imbalances are off, and it's going to change the way that they feel about themselves. Well, it's the same about the PIES. If your PIES are off kilter, if you're not focusing on yourself and getting yourself in shape physically, and if you're not continuing to read and grow intellectually, and if you're not focusing on being that safe emotional place for the people in your life, and if you're not growing spiritually, then you're not going to feel awesome. You're going to react quicker to anger and to other emotions that go on in your life, and you're just going to not be the healthiest person overall that you can be. So you do the PIES first for you. And the secondary benefit to that is that the relationships in your life will strengthen as well. So you get healthy first for you, and then it makes your other relationships in your life healthy as a benefit.
Outstanding. Very good.
Someone asked a question. They said, so a lot of these things I can do alone. Physically, I can go to the gym alone. I can read a book by myself. I can attend church, which we haven't gotten into the spiritual part yet, but we will. But the emotional part of it, how do I do that as an individual?
You do it with everybody and anybody with whom you come in contact. That's how you start learning how to do it and do it better. It's like, okay, so if he or she's not here, if I don't, so let's say you're single and say, there's not a significant other right now, so I can't practice that with him or her. Practice it with everybody. Or if you're saying I'm married, but I'm in trouble, my spouse is now living someplace else, I can't practice it with him or her because they're not here. Learn it, develop it, make it habitual, make it part of who and what you are. By practicing it with anybody. If you're checking out at the grocery store, do it with the lady that's helping you put your stuff together. I mean, practice it toward everybody. Here's what I tell single people. You want to know how somebody's going to treat you emotionally? Over time, watch how they treat waitstaff. If you have a male waiter, female waiter, whatever, watch how they treat the waitstaff. If they're being kind and polite to them, that's who they are. If they're being rude and crude to them, but trying to be nice to you, they're faking you out. It has to do with how you deal with everybody. So that's how you deal with it. That's how you develop it. That's how you increase it. Then when that significant other finally is there for you single people, or when you finally have some interaction with your husband or wife, then you don't even have to stop to think about it so much because you have made it part of who and what you are.
You know, perhaps another hard so it can be difficult to implement this with your spouse because that familiarity is there. The next relationship that I believe this would be hardest to implement with, but needs to be, is with children, parents to kids, because it can be so easy, especially in this emotional part of it, to yell at your kids, get angry at your kids, and not focus on building that emotional stability there.
How different would it be if you just stop and ask yourself, how is the kid going to react emotionally to what I'm about to say? Because if it's like what he's going to do is get mad and yell and scream back at me, then what have I accomplished? And so maybe then there's a different way to approach this, a different way to say it. You say, well, I need to teach my kid to obey. I'm with you. I think kids should be taught to obey. I really believe that. But you can either do it like this, or you can find out, how do I interact with this kid based on his or her emotions? And you're right. I think it's crucial when it comes to kids. And if we can back up even one more step, think about this intellectual thing. Sometimes we hear people say, my spouse is just not talkative. He or she, typically it's a he here, just doesn't talk to me very much. Well, if you become intellectually interesting to whatever is really important to him, then he will, because now you have something else to talk about. Well, these things apply in so many ways across the board.
They really do.
But you're right, they are also applicable to kids. And if you teach kids this,
huge difference.
then they have an easier and better life, because so much of life is about relationships, and this is all about relationships. And the kids that do this, if you train them up this way, here's how you can be physically attractive, intellectually attractive, emotionally, spiritually, and that you do it all for you, but it really affects the way that other people interact with you. You're not doing it to manipulate other people. This is for you, to become the best you can be. But because it is relational. It affects relationships with everybody. These are the kids that are going to do better in life in everything they do, because everything comes back to relationships. Unless your job is to be a monk in a monastery where nobody speaks to each other and you're the only monk there. Otherwise, it's going to apply.
I saw one of those 2 weeks ago.
Fascinating. Well, if he was the only one there, how did you see it?
No. I saw the monastery, which was built into a desert cliff. Like, these people did not want to be around anyone. But even then, you're not really doing what we're created for. I mean, we are created to be in relationship, to be with people, and all of that.
And that's what this is about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we better get to the spiritual.
Yeah, we better get to the spiritual. So the final part of the PIES is that spiritual attraction. You've already said that doesn't necessarily mean religion.
Not necessarily.
So what does it mean?
It has to do with beliefs and values. Your beliefs are those things that you hold to be true. Values are how you expect people to behave. In other words, your values could be morals. Okay? So we tend to find people attractive if their belief system is similar to ours, and therefore their value system is similar to ours. That's why conservative people tend to marry conservative people. That's why people that are more liberal in their views of things tend to marry people who are more liberal in their views. It's why people tend to marry somebody of a similar religion. Now, understand, in America, a Baptist and a Methodist would be considered similar religion, instead of, like a Catholic and a Muslim would be then considered different religions. But people spiritually are attracted to people that they feel have similar beliefs and values, because or that they perceive that the other person actually has superior beliefs and values. Like, I like your beliefs and values better than mine. So what does that mean? It means you need to really understand what your beliefs and values are. What is it that I really believe? And therefore, what is it that I expect people to do, expect people to live? How do I expect people to live? And then live by that as best you can. Now, you won't be perfect at it. Nobody is, but as best you can. Because what becomes unattractive here are people who espouse one belief and value system but live by a different one. Mm-hmm. We don't find those people attractive at all. We tend to call them hypocrites. We tend to call them liars. We tend to call them fakes. In other words, it's about being genuine, which means I need to know what I believe, I need to know what I value, and that's how I need to try to live. Because if that's what I say, but then I'm living in a way that's completely contradictory to that, people are going to look at me and say, I don't trust you at all. And if they're attracted to this belief and value system, they're going to be pushed away from you when they discover that you actually live by a different belief and value system. Mm-hmm. Now, you might be thinking, well, what about other people who are doing the same things I'm doing? Well, if they see through your belief and value system, they still might be attracted to you. Or they may be attracted to you until they find out that you espouse a belief and value system they don't. Then even though you live like they live, they'll tend to push you away or be pushed away from you. Like, yeah, we live the same way, but I don't like what you believe. I don't like when you say you believe this, that, and that. That's inconsistent. That's not what I believe. And so basically what we're saying under spiritual values, be real. Be genuine. Now, it doesn't mean you can't change your beliefs and value systems. If you learn new things, your beliefs can change. Your morals, your values can change. But understand that if you're single and you're looking for a relationship, look for people who have very similar beliefs and values to yours. It avoids all kinds of problems in the future, or people that you might perceive as having better beliefs and values to yours. If you're single, seriously, you should be examining that as part of whether this relationship should continue when you start one. If you're married and you do have similar, both of you should live by it, maybe even grow. If you're married and in trouble, it's especially important that you continue to live by your beliefs and value system. But you say, what if my spouse has changed and the belief and value system he or she is living by now is very different than mine? Shouldn't I just change mine to be like them? If it's an honest change, I guess it could work, but typically that's not an honest change. It's like you do that, kind of manipulate them to get back, then you go back up here again, and they're like, no, you should be consistent with your beliefs and values. If you got questions about them, dig into it. If you're part of a religion, talk to one of your religious people, your minister, your rabbi, your priest, whoever he or she may be, to help you understand that. But this is an important part of life as well. And in the long term, beliefs and values matter. Now again, if you're looking just at physical, because you want to pick up somebody at the bar, you may not care. But in the long term, you really want somebody that you are compatible with when it comes to the things you hold to be true and the way you believe people should live.
That's so good. So good. So of this whole thing, of the PIES, physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, what would you encourage people to be their next step now that they know all of this?
Well, the one that people can get quickest, I mean, they just grasp it, is start taking care of your body better. Change your diet, start your exercise, do those things. I mean, we hear so much about that on television, etc., that you can get this diet, you can go to that gym, you can do all that kind of stuff. Well, based on your age and situation in life, do what's best that you can do for your body physically, whatever age you are. I've been myself working on this. In the last several weeks, I've lost quite a bit of weight. I'm getting in better shape than I've ever been in my life. Still got a long ways to go, but I'm headed there because I decided maybe I should do what I teach other people to do. Physically is easy, but if you are in a relationship and the other person has some area that they really like to talk about, they really like to think about, learning about that can be a good thing. But do it to benefit you. In other words, don't do it if it's just absolutely atrocious, like I just can't do that. Okay, then don't. But if you can, then find out what it is he or she's interested. You already know what it is. Start working on learning more about that. That becomes more intellectually attractive. If you're single, just pick whatever's important to you, but learn. Don't ever become stagnant and vegetate. Emotionally, start today, right now. You don't have to wait for the gym membership. The next person you come in contact with, before you say a word, before you do a thing, think, what will evoke positive emotions within this person? Often it just starts with a smile. A genuine smile, a real smile can evoke positive emotions within the other person. And then when they speak, what thing can I say? I've been trying to practice that myself lately as well. I was in a Cracker Barrel yesterday with some people coming out, and there was a guy walked in with this big old giant cowboy hat. And you could tell he was proud of that big old cowboy hat. And so as he walked by me, I just said, hey fella, great hat. I really like your hat. Did I have to say anything to him? No. Why did I do it? I'm trying to learn how to become more emotionally attractive to other people by genuinely doing what it takes to evoke positive emotions within them. Not to manipulate them, but because I care about people. What about you? Well, then, as Kimberly already said, it's still easier to do it with a stranger than your spouse. But that's who counts really a lot, maybe even most. With your children, it really counts. So start the emotional today. Then when it comes to the spiritual, maybe you should start writing down what you believe. Just literally, these are the things I believe. And then go back and rate them. Do I really believe that? Or do I just say I believe that because I've always been taught to believe that? Start learning about yourself. And there's some great things to start learning about you there, about what you really believe, and then how that affects the way you live and the way you think people should live. So the one immediately, right now, emotionally. But you can do all of them.
Absolutely. Emotional is so important, but they're all important in a bigger scheme. But don't let this look like a big mountain. You've just gotten a lot of information and you might be thinking, oh my goodness, I need to do everything differently. I don't even know where to start. This seems like too big of a task to even approach right now. Don't let it happen to you like that. Start with that one, with the emotional, and just say, today, here's something I'm going to do differently. I'm just going to ask that question today. How is this going to affect the person I'm about to say it to? And just do that today. And then tomorrow, maybe you add one more thing. Maybe next week, you start going on a walk every morning.
Right. There you
It
go.
is a gradual.
It doesn't have to happen overnight.
It's not going to
happen
No.
overnight.
Not going to happen overnight at all. Sometimes it can take a long time for people to get to that physical part. They start with the emotional. They know they need to change a lot in their diet and in the, in exercise and things like that. But as long as you're consistently taking steps forward, you don't want to be going backwards. So just keep going forward, and you can do it. These are things that you can do and start implementing immediately.
That's correct.
Absolutely makes a huge, 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 huge change. Actually, I asked some people who have used the PIES to just give a quick example of how using the PIES have helped them. And this is one couple who, when they came to us, I mean, he was in love with another person. Their marriage was absolutely on the brink of divorce. And here's where they are now. And a huge part of this was from the PIES. So the husband said, when you walk in the house looking to leave and your wife is looking so fine, you think twice. We invented some adult-oriented renditions of chess that turned out to be very fun. My wife also decided to take interest in sports. She knows the players on the opposing teams now. It's amazing to watch with her and not alone like I did for 5 years. The wife said, "PIES have helped me focus. When you focus on stuff you can control, it leaves less room to worry about the things you can't. I'm at my ideal weight. I've learned so many things that I've always wanted to, like sports and piano, and I have also learned to control my emotions, which helps in all of my relationships and as a leader in the corporate world." That's awesome.
Yep.
These things make a huge difference. So do what you can today. Start doing something, move forward, and know that you can do this.
Yep. And PIES it's just a simple way to understand tons and tons of complex research out there. That's why I copyrighted a thing years ago. PIES is just so simple and it makes it work. And you can do it.
Yep.
You definitely can do it.
Absolutely. Well, it's great being with you this Monday. We'll see you again next Monday. And until then, work on your PIES. Share with us how you've been working on your PIES.
Yeah.
And we look forward to seeing the improvements and the amazing results that happen from that.
Yes.
Have a great weekend or a great week.
Yeah.